everyone, and welcome back to On the Count podcast. Today we have a great guest with us, Soteria. I am Soteria on Instagram. I love this young lady. I love her energy. She's doing a lot of things for the community. That's one thing that I love. She is totally an advocate for a lot of prisoners and trying to help. But what she has found is let's not wait till they're in prison. She's trying to reach a lot of them before they get there. So she is working with the community, advocating a lot of kids and education. So I love our conversations. I love where she's going with a lot of things she's doing in her life. I'm very proud of her and everything since I met her. She's awesome, a love personality, great speaker, a great poet as well. So Terry, I'm going to give you the floor. Please open up. Give us some introduction. I want you to introduce yourself to us.
Yeah, so y'all can't see me, but I'm smiling real hard. I feel like I need to hire you, Coach, for that intro. I really appreciate it. What's up, everybody? My name is Soteria Shepperson. Stage name, I am Soteria. My name is Greek and working to hold all that it means. I'm a first generation college graduate. I'm an artivist by nature and in my career, which means I use art to talk about issues of injustice and equity and all the hard things. Statistics show that when you put music and art around things that are very uncomfortable to talk about, people receive it better. It's more palatable. And so part of my journey has been to take artivism and that work into the men's prison, the women's prison, and recently into our nonprofit called Grow Your World, where in the state of North Carolina, we are the first art-based mentorship program that allows kids to do murals. They can do a photography project. They can do a videography project. One kid wanted to do something around cosmetology and hair. Anything art focused, we use for them as community service that is court mandated. And so, along with tutoring, so all of our kids also receive free tutoring if they need those services. And yeah, I just have found that art is one of those things that truly has no barrier when it comes to language. And so that's something that I'm really trying to empower our generation with. And I got some old heads that love me too. My boy Scotto and Will, two guys I call my big brother. Both of these guys have phenomenal stories. And Coach Pedro, I want you to connect with them. One of the guys had a natural life sentence. And he is out and doing some great work. And so it's just been a privilege to be around people who have been incarcerated. And I say privilege with the most humble way because, I think for some decisions, one of my friends, Emily Baxter, one of the quotes she pulls out is that 4 in 4 people have a criminal history, but 1 in 4 people have a criminal record. And that talks about the disparity that we have in our in the American quote unquote non-justice system. So just trying to be the light, it's so important what you're doing with On the Count to bring voices into this space so that people know what they can do. I think a lot of people in our country and in our world would do more and they just get stuck about the how. So hopefully today we'll talk about some hows people can get involved and keep this conversation going.
Yeah, definitely. The how is very, very important. And one thing that I worked in prison, so working in the system for 27 years, um, I find out education is just one of those things that is very, very important. Those guys that came in and got something out of the system that they went and
Yeah.
say, well, I am going to go to school. I'm going to make this change. I'm going to learn. I'm going to make the difference. I'm going to break that chain at this time because if I keep those links together, it's just I'm going to come back and keep pulling
Yeah.
you back. The system will pull you back. The system is going to bring you right back. So you have to break the chain, and I think the only way that I found and that I see that most of these guys is just education and
Yeah.
also make it that mind shift. When they make that mind shift of I have to change this, it's just there's no way I can't see with that mind shift and going for education there is no other way, and also see what you're doing.
Yeah.
We have to start early.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
we wait. It's hard to, you know, it's like a tree when it start bending one way. You can, it takes a long time to get it back. And
Absolutely.
so we got
Yeah.
to start early. We definitely got started. My question to you is how did you begin? How did you get involved
Yeah.
in this?
So, I'm the co-chair of an organization called Our Children's Place, and I've been a part of this organization. I want to say over 5 years, but we support the children of incarcerated parents. And one of the biggest things Our Children's Place does is we visit in the men's prison, and we have a parent day. And so it's where volunteers come in and we facilitate activities for fathers to engage with their kids. And it's beyond like the visiting hours. And so we have books that are donated, toys. It's been a very, very big part of my life because I'm the daughter of a formerly incarcerated father. And so growing up in a single parent home, I remember what those rides was like. Two of my brothers spent some time incarcerated, and just seeing how all of a sudden the justice system started to raise them. The streets started to raise them. My mom working back and forth, and like, dad's in and out, things like that. I really, really was like, how can I become an asset with what I know? And I love being able to walk into prison and walk out. People are like, "You going there voluntarily?" I'm like, "Yeah, because I can voluntarily leave." But it's a refreshing place to be when you have been on the side as like a little girl, remembering like being pat down and remembering the long rides, like watching some people not be able to come in because they don't know why the metal detector is going off. Remembering the food in the vending machines where the guys will come out, brother come out, all of a sudden, like, I feel like we at the fanciest restaurant when I ketchup packets and mustard, like it was. I mean, I just remember this vividly, and I lost one of my brothers when I was in high school. Biological brother, he's my favorite brother, and that was very, very difficult for me, and that was the first time like I really got introduced to therapy because Black culture, and we're better now, but like, my mom didn't cry at his funeral. Like, I know she had cried before, but it's like this thing of like having to be strong, and so I really wanted to empower men, especially at that time, that vulnerability is strength. To teach our men to be very sensitive and astute and keen to what they're feeling emotionally, and not this stigma of like having to be the provider. And I gotta go, like, if you just spent 10 years on a bed, you're not going to come out and just start providing. Like,
Right.
and the lack of transition programs in our state is like another reason why Grow Your World and Encounter started. One of my youngest kids is 10 years old, and we are immediately doing wraparound services. We are empowering this kid with resources, with mentors, with art. And the thing I love about art is they can journal. I mean, one of my seniors, he did this rap song, and oh boy, it's pretty good. He's pretty good, and like you can hear though, like his heartbreak about what he's been dealing with, and his father is an active addiction. So how can we give these outlets at a very young age? Because when I'm in the men's prison, I'm telling you, it's the little boys like inside of them that got left behind. They didn't get that experience, and so we have this expectation that we all got to grow up so fast. And me and you were talking about before we started recording, like sometimes I just got to take it slow, and and when I'm ready to pick the pace up, I can. And so I think that's a different mind shift, as you was talking about, is giving ourselves permission when I got to slow down to figure out which lane I got to be in. It's
Hmm.
not seen as a weakness; it's actually a strength.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta do. But something you mentioned, something I used to tell. because I was a counselor for a while, and I used to tell, I learned this from other inmates. We had a big group, and we got together like for a year to put in a nice class together. But one thing I learned from them, and then I started using that, I will speak to them and tell them, you have to learn when you get out, you have to be somewhat selfish. And
Mm.
they asked me why, because you can't get out of here and say, well, I am going to dedicate my time to my kids and do, because
Yeah.
you've been locked up. This, you can't, I tell them, you can't make up the time that you lost.
Right.
And a lot
That's
of
right.
times they go out, and one guy taught me that. He got out, and he was trying to make up time, trying to do all these things with his kids. How he wanted to go here, he wanted to go there. Then he found out himself short of money, or short that he had to do certain things because he still had time in his back. He didn't have enough money. So what did he go back to?
Mm.
What he was doing before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just to make money and make ends meet and be able to do those things. So where he's going to end up at is going back to prison.
That's right.
So
That's all right.
I learned from him, and he teaching us, because you have to learn how to be selfish. That's one thing. This time he said, when I get out, I got to get myself right so I can do right for my kids and my family and everything else. And I would ask, and I would tell that to some of the inmates that were listening, not because all of them don't listen. They
Oh yeah.
crazy stuff.
Absolutely.
But those that listen, you got to go out there and you're going to be selfish for right now. Take you a
Yeah.
year, get yourself together, get everything. But you have to bring this up. You have to be able to talk. Tell your girlfriend, wife, kids, this is what I have to do
Yeah.
to be able to be better. Because if you go out, be out there and you try to make up the time, you're trying to do all this, and it's going to drive you up the wall. And when you find yourself, you have anxiety, you have all these things going on, and it's going to destroy you, and you're going to come back in here. Um,
Yeah. That's real.
and I used to ask him, I had a set of questions, because then as a supervisor, lieutenant, I had to sign these guys out before they leave to hit the streets. And I was stopping him, asking, are you ready? He said, yeah, yeah. Well, so do you have money saved up? Those guys tell me, well, I got $5,000, $6,000 saved up. Um, and I got some family support, but I also have this in line, this job, these things that I already made communication with. All right. So they have a plan. They have everything else going. But then I asked other guys, do you have some money saved up? Do you have, no, I got a little bit of money. What you mean a little bit of money? Well, they're going to give me the
Right.
money when I leave that I saved up. How much is that? Oh, I only got like $200, $300. Okay. But my family's going to help me.
Mm.
Oh, and I'll be like, okay. What else you got? You got a job? You got a car? No, I don't. Well, this is what you're going to need. Do you know where you're gonna go when you get it? No, I don't know. I'm just gonna go. And a lot of times they're telling me I'm dependent on my family.
Yeah.
And I said, unfortunately, you know what? I'm leaving the light on because I will see you back. And naturally, I will see them back. And I felt like, well, I'm telling you this because it's the truth.
Right. Right.
You're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
come back. You're not ready. You haven't prepared.
That's right.
Guys that prepared, they will tell you. You'll see on their face. But then I'm just thinking random thoughts about some other stuff that I remember. I had one guy, and what is so funny, this guy is actually. You remember the show The Wire?
Oh yeah, for sure.
What one of those guys actually that went to prison was one of my inmates,
Oh wow.
and he was getting out of prison. The day he got out, I saw him up front, right in the waiting for the taxi to come pick him up, and I saw him just, he's tall, he's slim, but he looks so nervous. Are you okay? He says to me, no.
Mm.
Why not? I'm scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
He had been locked up almost 20 years. And he said,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't, if I'm correct, I don't think he made it once he got home. Not long
Yeah.
after that, he got killed. Fortunately. But it's things like that that leaves you with
Yeah.
these thoughts that we have to do better. Where is it that we're missing out? Um, you have a great opportunity in your hands to help out a lot of younger kids coming up. Those kids from families incarcerated. I remember working the visiting room or going through the visiting room, and there's these kids there. I know when I worked in the visiting room when I was a young officer, I would bring stuff. I had stuff. I would go actually to dollar store and make sure I had like coloring books and stuff in there.
Oh, I love that.
They would come in. We had some, but we didn't have enough.
Right. Yeah.
I will have this to some of the kids that will come in and want to sit down, and I have them and and help them out and give it to the parents. Maybe yeah, that was my thought because I wanted them to just sit around and not do stuff because some of the kids will come in and will do. We had to. I mean, they would.
Oh, it became a daycare. Like sometimes,
Oh, I was,
yeah,
yeah, they'll come in and they think I'm a day because I was like
yeah,
pretty easygoing, so I don't want to be a daycare, but I also felt, my heart rang every
yeah,
time I see these kids come in, and they went through that situation you just spoke, going through the metal detector, walking these long hallways,
yeah,
and your father in this uniform over and over and over again. Unfortunately, I saw the other side as well. Some kids being used by the parents to bring in stuff and to.
yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
why are you doing that? You are just ruining it for other people first, and you putting your child in a situation that is just like now you're locked up, mom is going to be locked up, and
Right, right.
system, which is going to create in the long run another person that's going to be inside of prison eventually, unless he, around some people that have them help him shift his mind into where he needs to be. So,
Yeah, that's so vital because so I remember when we first started Grow Your World, I had never seen a black female scientist until I was 30 years old. And so when I went to college, like I didn't even think about being a scientist because like I never thought about it. Like one thing I thought about was like Bill Nye the Science Guy, like it was the only science person I knew really. And then I went to George Mason and I wanted to study engineering because I love the show Pimp My Ride and would exhibit on it. I was like, I'm gonna be the first girl on Pimp My Ride. That was like my goal. And being the first person to go to college, it's like all these supports I didn't have. Like I knew struggle. Like I knew coming from, a single parent home and like how to work hard. But going back to what you talked about early on in the conversation around this piece around education is empowering myself and my circle and to really embody that like selfishness and turn it into self-care and letting people know like all right this is for me and like having to be very intentional about that. And something else that I've learned in that process is self-care is great, and something that is also vital for our young people and I think people in general is our community care, because I've seen guys like doing some work at some of the shelters that I've worked at, and they will come, they be clean, and then they start being around people that's like actively using drugs. And I remember going to NA meetings with my dad, and like, the first thing is, take it one day at a time, of course. And it's like, you can't be around people that are actively using. And if we look at, the American system when it comes to incarceration, a lot of the especially black and brown people are incarcerated for drugs, and then women are normally incarcerated because they were involved in a situation that got them caught up, and so if we look at the percentages, I really am fascinated in the ways that some of the prison systems are ran out of the country. It is really truly rehabilitation. It's like how can we empower people so when they get out they're not afraid of their own freedom, so to speak. And I think because, the guys would tell me, all right, and here I got my 3 meals, I got a bed, and here I know who crazy, I know who not. I know that I can work, and get my serve. A lot of guys get serve safe certificates, like working in the kitchen.
yeah.
It was too much freedom too soon, which is why I think our lack of transitional housing in America is one of the most pivotal things that I feel is so needed because people do want help, but anxiety overtakes you. Like the guy who got out, he's like, man, 20 years, 10 years. I mean, I go back to my hometown and things have changed. The buildings are taller or it's not there anymore, and you have to like navigate these systems, and then when you talk about technology, I mean technology. A lot of my guys don't know how to really open a computer and get it started, and the classes
Mhm.
and the resources haven't been. place where they are. And so they're coming out and like now this a computer's on your phone. Like when they're used to like rotary phones, some of them. And so,
Yeah.
like you talk about with that fear is so real. And I empower them. I'm like, it is natural. If you weren't afraid after a certain amount of time being incarcerated, I'd be worried. Because that means you like you said, you're gonna go back to the same thing.
Right. Right.
I think the fear really settles in to be like, I'm going to do something new and something I haven't done. And, to me, that's the beauty of like, even when I'm performing on stage, it's like the butterflies. No matter how many times you think you've done it, it's like you start getting butterflies and sweating. You like, oh my gosh. But once you hit it, you start to become proud of yourself. And that's something that people that I've dealt with and that are in my and that I've created friendships with is to empower them to be able to tell their story unashamed. Because I think society and stereotypes, we all have been in places where people would shame us for who we are and what we've done. And it's like, we got to be able to like talk about these things. I know it heals us. It heals us.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I tell people is it's, it's a very thin line between being out of jail and being in jail.
Whew, yeah.
It's a lot of people don't realize it's a very thin line. A lot of guys, a lot of people, you never know what is going to get you there. I know I had one guy, I can't remember exactly what he was in prison for. I know he worked for the train system for the railroads.
Hmm.
Something that he did, very nice gentleman, ended up in prison. And I was like, why are you in prison? I can't remember exactly why, but he was a very nice guy. Ended up having some issues because some guys then he went to another prison and they beat him up really bad, and that really just changed his whole life after that. And prison just ruined his life. Why was he in prison? I can't remember. It wasn't a crime that just gave him a lot of time, but he ended up in prison. So sometimes, taxes and things like that will land you.
Yeah.
You land around people you never know. You're not used to that. You're not used to that life. So that is totally different when you come into those systems.
Yeah.
But then some other people just grow up and they don't have the opportunities available to them, or they don't know how to take advantage to the opportunities because
Hmm.
their families didn't know how to do it, and the families, the generation before didn't know how to do it. So there's nobody really teaching them
Right.
how to take advantage, how to make better. I'm thinking now we see it with the internet and having all these things that are more available. I think COVID opened up a lot of doors too.
Hmm.
Woke up a lot of people that okay, um, I don't need a job. Or I don't need to be going and doing certain things
Right.
to be able to make money. There are many other ways. So people are in this last 2, 3 years have gotten very, very, very creative.
Yeah.
So there is a whole new boom of different things out there. And there's a lot of people learning that have realized, oh, I can learn from this,
Right.
to other people. And I think that's the other thing we also falter that some of us do learn, but we never teach. We never go back and reach back and bring somebody else with us so they'll do the same thing. I think that's where we fall at as well. Um,
Absolutely.
Education for me is not, when I say education, this you may agree with me, but education is not always going to college or university. It's just
Yeah.
grabbing a book, being able to read, listen to other people, learning, making
Yeah.
notes, writing. So it's not always I've met a lot of people with degrees.
Yeah.
They were like, "You went to school for how long? How many years?" Oh, okay, that means
Yeah.
you know, college, not university, always doesn't make you smarter, doesn't get you there.
That's right.
That mind shift and be able to accept and learn. Um, Let me ask you this:
Yeah.
you've been to women prison and you've been to male prisons.
Hmm.
Which one receives your message better?
Mm. I've spent the most time in the men's prison. Maybe because I was like a tomboy and I can talk about sports and football. And so I'd probably lean towards there. I'll tell you, and also just the way that the women are treated is so heartbreaking. Men are given more services and support systematically in the prison. And so there's a lot of neglect that happens in the women's prison. And I think what I've learned to do as an artist, my mom taught me when I was very young, no matter if I'm performing for one person or a million people, like don't ever not show up the same. And so I've been really, really intentional when I get into a space to be able to pivot or to be able to really relate to where people are. And so I find myself in more men's prisons because of the connections that I've had in that realm. And when I've gone to the women's prison, they have also been very welcoming. Because it's about empowerment. What you said about education, I learned really good. I'm a visual learner, and storytelling is ways in which I learn as well. And to be able to sit with them and hear, about, why they're there and if they're willing to share that, like that's just been absolutely life changing for me to be able to sit at their feet. And really, they help me get information that is like,
Hmm.
it's like real life, and I've been so humbled by both, to be honest. I've been so humbled.
Okay. Um, so pretty much they receive you the same way, women and men, because I worked mainly in men prison. I had a very short stint working with women, and uh, they were a little. It's different for us, not for you, but for us working around women is very very different. For us, is a little bit difficult because the things that they did. But I also read some of the cases, and most of the women that were in prison, unlike the men, they were in prison because they were leaders or whatever. Is because they were put in that situation, they were dragged into it, or they were trying to help, or and they got caught up, and here they are doing 10, 15, 10, 12, 15 years in prison for basically just being in the wrong place at the wrong time with the
Yeah.
wrong person.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, more often than not, unfortunately, a lot of the women were, in addition, incarcerated because crimes against their children, or domestic abuse as well, and that's something that was very difficult, to realize. It's like a woman protecting herself from abuse or was kidnapped or something, and like we're incarcerating them. And I think that goes back to policy and laws that don't protect women when it comes to those things. And if you look at I'll see parents say, well, the boys are just being boys. At some point, the good men I know in my life, they don't put their hands on women. They're not trafficking women, and so I think what grow your world, and going back to the example of never seeing a black female scientist until I was 30, it's like we put healthy men in the lives of our children. Whether those kids, however they identify, whether that's as female, male, non-binary, we need to see healthy men. I'm well over 30, and it still does my heart good, to be able to call up my dad and or feel protected. He send me little messages. He's like, we'll be outside too late. I'm like, Dad, I'm grown, but all right. He's like, be careful, but those things with my brothers and my dad, it feels good. We all feel protected when it comes to men like that in our lives, and that's not something that we all have been able to experience or receive. And so I think it is more of what you're saying. The education, sometimes a lot of our education is very little about the curriculum that the kids have to do. It is more about putting mentors in their lives that look like them, can relate to them, that don't look like them, is willing to go out of the box and say, yeah, I don't have this lived experience, but I want to share what I have with you. And I remember Sophie and I were talking to this guy who he's like an older guy, but very, very wise, and was retired. We're talking to him about funding. And he just started talking to us about long term wealth. And immediately in a conversation, I'll tell somebody like, I'm looking like I'm on my phone, but like I'm taking notes because generational wealth is important to me. And sitting at the feet of somebody that's willing to teach me that, I always tell
Right.
people investing in me is investing in generations because the money that I get from my shows or from my events, it goes back into our kids in some way, shape, or form. Even the art, I was teaching myself art so that I could teach them visual art, and so did my first show. My mom was like, "Oh my gosh, you got all this paint everywhere." So listen, my first show, I sold my first piece $999, and my mom was like, "Oh no, you can paint anything. It's cool now."
Yeah.
Being able to show my kids that, I haven't always been a painter, but I want to make sure I'm doing what I'm asking them to do, which is sometimes you got to do things out of the box that you're not comfortable with, and that goes back to knowing your audience and who's in the room.
Yeah. Oh, something you said that just remind my daughter is more. She's over 30, and we've been doing something I don't know for many many years. When she went to college, and she just got back from Texas the other day, and she texted me, "I'm back home." When she got to Texas a couple of days, like 3 or 4 days over the weekend, "Yeah, I'm in Texas, and we made a deal years ago. Hey, wherever we leave or go somewhere, text me. Let me know where are you, and let me know when you get home." And she's been doing that since I don't know since college.
I love that.
Yeah, yeah. And then she was always funny because she told me years later, "Dad, you will call me in these morals uh, inappropriate moments, and just you will call me in those moments." And I said, "Well, you answer the phone, right?" "Yeah, I will answer the phone. How am I going to answer the phone?" Because that was the only thing I wanted to, because I will call her, and what do you? "Oh, nothing. I'm just no. I know what you're doing, but know what you're
Right.
doing, okay? And how you doing? Don't worry about it." Uh, so my thing was that I just want her to answer my phone and answer the phone. I said, "You answer the phone every time I was good. I know you're okay. I will be
Yeah.
worried if I call you, you didn't answer the phone." I
Yeah.
didn't really mind what she was doing because you got to have experiences of life so
Right.
you know how to develop and live. But I also want to have, a safety net. That's what parents do. And when you think about that, that's what so many kids miss out is not having that safety net their
Yeah.
parent or man provides for their children.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
the system and society kind of removes that and makes it
Hmm.
way too easy, especially like you said, uh, um, black and brown people have that. I mean, and it's actually not just that. I think if you are poor,
Oh
and
yeah.
I mean not poor, I mean po,
Yeah.
because you
Oh,
get a
that's
po
right.
past two letters,
Yeah.
and you fall in that realm. And I really don't care if you're black, white, green, or whatever. If you
That's
don't
so real.
you fall in that realm. You just don't know, and people don't teach you and don't grab you and say, "Let's make this better."
Well, poverty, right? Poverty is something that it takes a lot to, it costs us so much. People being impoverished, whether that is from a monetary perspective or a mental perspective, but the lack of information around how to thrive, the lack of information around getting out and doing something different. And then at something that Grow Your World we really push is not just opportunity but access, because I know a lot of things, but if I don't have access to those things, I'm still stuck. And that's why I really the majority of people in my circle are like they I call them old heads, because I feel like they don't lived a lot of life. They willing to pour into me. They say, all right, don't go down that road. I'm not gonna be like, let me go down the road just because you say not, but don't go down the road. And that's something too that we really pride ourselves on in Grow Your World is this intergenerational relationship. So we put the 10-year-old, with the 60-year-old and ask them like they just having conversations, because the 10-year-old's perspective is vital, just as vital as the 60-year-old. And like if we are all pouring into each other from our lived experience and from our assets, whether that is spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, like we start to eradicate the poverty, whether that's the mind or the lack of access. And when it comes to the 1%, like our nonprofit, grants, 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 grants. Grants are great, but like this is something for the community. And so, I really pride myself on building a relationship with people. So we get individual donors, and we get, people coming back, and we got to help one of our seniors with her first car this year. This kid, coach, was literally, she was couch surfing. And for women, that starts off as couch surfing, but you start staying in people's house for a certain amount of time, your greatest asset becomes your body. That's what that becomes. And so my goal was to make sure that this young lady did not become a victim of human trafficking, or she did not have to get into prostitution. And so, we had several mentors going in, talking to her, mending the relationship with her mom, her grandmother, just being there, showing up. Like, stuff happens in families. And like, and at this age, it's like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. If I go back to my mom and my dad's house right now, if they say take the shoes off at their house before I start walking in the house, those are their rules. It doesn't change because this kid is like turning 18, so they're about to be an adult. I'm like, no, it don't work like that. Even in my parents' house, if you going into somebody's space, their rules may be different. So that is the thing that we want to teach our kids is, which is honor, respect for yourself and for other people in different cultures. That's something else that we have really, really been intentional about, is understanding each other where we are, and more importantly, like who we desire to be in the world. And there's some people, like you said, they're just not desiring anything differently at this time. And how to set boundaries is really, really important to do that as well. So that kid, I'm happy to say, has a job down, is no longer couch surfing, graduated with all B's. They weren't in school. I'm so proud of this kid, and that's the reason that I do what I do, because I know that I'm not everybody's messenger, but for the people whose messenger I am, I want to make sure I can show up for them.
Yeah, you're not gonna be. I mean, that's one thing you can't. You're not. Not everybody's going to like your message. It's impossible.
Yeah,
Somebody's not going to agree with you. Don't matter whatever it is. Not everybody's going to agree with you. But I always this is my thought of always, if I can touch one,
yeah,
I reach
yeah.
because they might be able to touch another one and so on. Then the chain grows wider and bigger, and then you try to make it a little bit deeper as it goes. But even just one person that you can make a difference, a change in their life. I mean, you just done a great service. Sometimes that's all you can do, and people don't accept it. It's just I was thinking when you were talking, it takes a village.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that is where we have gone deviated from
Yeah,
the village. We get so mad because somebody corrected our kids. When I was growing up, if somebody in the neighborhood corrected me when I got home, they were waiting for me because
oh
my,
my
my
gosh.
the neighbor just
Yeah,
whipped my butt because I was doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing, and they
yeah,
can get on the phone and just say, "Well, you can't be touching my kid." No, send him home because I'm gonna whip his butt too.
exactly. You
Uh,
getting it, you getting it multiple times.
and then you get it multiple times, and it's unfortunate. You say, "Well, we're not supposed to be whipping." No, it's not whipping, but it was a correction. Maybe there wasn't the
Yeah,
right way, but it sure made a difference in a lot of us in our lives, and a lot of us made a big difference that we knew. If we will go up there and Miss Willis saw you doing wrong, she was
that's
going
right.
to yell at you and was going to call home and tell your mom, which your mom was going to get you and give you some punishment. Plus, somebody else in the neighborhood was going to give you punishment.
That's right.
Oh my God. Um, but we kind of lost that somewhere, or I don't know when, but we lost it. And we have not been able to gain it back. It's been very, very hard.
That's right.
Because kids nowadays can be so very disrespectful to a grown up and an older person. There is not respect, and it's gone into, I think, into the system. Because we have correctional officers that they come into work and don't respect the system as well. They come in and don't do their job. That's one thing I was talking to another guest yesterday. Doing your job. And my job as a correctional officer was to provide safety and security, but also to talk to you and making sure that you follow the rules and regulations and be able to adapt, because you have to do that now. So when you get back to society, you're capable of understanding what else is going on.
That's right.
Whether we like it or not, we say, well, I don't have to follow rules. I don't have to do that. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to,
Yeah,
even
that's
though,
right.
even though in moments of anarchy and chaos, there's
That's right.
somebody that is leading,
That's right.
somebody that's following.
Yeah,
Okay, whether you want to or not, the system is there. We create the system as human beings. We have to have leaders. We have to have people in position, because everybody cannot lead, but
that's
we all
right.
follow.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
oh, we thought you have to learn how to follow to be able to lead.
yeah. That's real. That's real. I mean, I gotta tell you, you have been so refreshing in my life, and I haven't known you a long time, but your presence was just like one of those people around. Like I wanna know what he knows. Anything he says. I got my notepad here. Like I want to take notes. I got it all going here. Because it's so vital. And I really, really appreciate these moments, and it's like you saying, like understanding it takes a village. And where I want to go, you've been just such a huge asset to that, like pouring out your heart and letting me know about your journey. And I wish we had more of that. That's why I'm glad we're doing this podcast, because then it's recorded and it's going to be on my website. Because these are the things that I go back and I listen to personally. I'll listen to, it feeds my soul. And those are the ways that I feel that technology has really, really helped maintain the stories. And it's kind of like, knowing what is your message to get you back on track. Because sometimes it's not easy to be like, I'm in a place that, man, like I'm in a slump right now. I'll throw this podcast on and I remember, like I
Yeah,
have to remind myself, and we all do. It's kind of like we're not just one thing. It's the intersectionality of being multiple things to multiple people on multiple days, and on the same day, having to realize like, all right, I really need this support right now, and where can I get that from? And so I think in a lot of ways, social media has been a detriment. But I think in a lot of ways, social media and technology has enhanced our ability to be our own advocates. And that's something that is very important to me, is empowering other people to tell their stories. And one of the reasons that I started doing so much with the art is because I tell the kids, if you don't tell your story, somebody is going to tell it for you. And
right.
9 times out of 10, they're going to leave stuff out, add stuff in. And so it is so important to me, whether they're, again, doing it from like a rap song or visual art. I've had a dancer in the program before, like whatever their modality of art is, it's like, how do you express yourself? Because if you don't learn that at a young age, you start to become defined by what you see, by what you hear, by lies, honestly, by stories that have never been checked, and by who we are, and that selfishness that you talked about earlier. Is like, I got to get to the point where I know myself before I start, engaging and trying to heal other people. It's like I always use the analogy of, when the plane, if it's falling, you got to put your mask on first.
Yeah,
You have to, or you're gonna be trying to save somebody, and then you just right there pass out. So, and I think in my daily life, it's those things of like, when I am trying to pour out, who is pouring into me, and how am I allowing myself to be poured into?
yeah. You have, and that's the other thing. You have to know who's bringing that energy around you.
Right.
It's very, 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 very important, I think. And you have to have the right energy for you, 'cause everybody has different energies. So, and whichever one is serving you, and kind of changes from time to time as well. But usually, your energy, your personal energy, pretty much stays the same in the same realm, and you're still going to attract those people towards you. One thing I could share with you is I have one guy that I stay in touch with a lot. He's been a guest on the podcast before. He did about 20 years in the federal system. Now he's out, and he's been out about 10 years now, doing very, very well. And his kids, I love watching him with his kids because one thing that he tells me is he calls me Lugo. I just
Mhm.
want to give my kids the opportunities I didn't have, and it's really not about um give him, and he does give them just pretty much everything they want, but it is, and I know it's not that. I think it's just more about being there. He wants to be there for his kids, and I think that is going to make a difference. And that is what, again, I love talking about the chain because he's breaking that chain where he came from. I mean, this guy was he's been shot, he sold drugs, he was a gangster, he did all this, and then all of a sudden he said, I just made that mind shift.
Mm.
It's just I realized, wow, okay, I gotta change or I'm gonna keep doing this for the rest of my life. So he gets out. Not easy. That's the other thing we bring up on the podcast, that coming out of prison is not easy. It's not
No.
and I would tell that to any inmate coming out of prison. It's not going to be easy. You have this stigma over you. You were incarcerated. They're going to ask you, have you been in prison? Yes. You have. You got to say yes. Don't say no because
Right.
it's going to be worse. Um, so that makes it difficult. And I will tell, honestly, just it's not easy because you won't get out. You whether you're black, especially you're a black person, you won't get out. You're a
Mhm.
little bit different because everybody now the society looks at you at one way. Now they're going to look at you. Everybody's going to look at you because you have, you're coming from prison, so you can't get by so many jobs.
Right. Right.
Create your own job, and you have to be willing to that. I also tell them you got to be willing to take those moments, but you have to build on it.
Yeah.
Don't let that set you back. Is you just build on those little moments that just go wrong. Okay, that didn't go right, but let's build on that one. Let's go into the next one, and use that as a building block and not as something that's taking you down. So I would tell them that and build on top of it, because those chances, you got to keep knocking on doors. It's like selling encyclopedias. I sold encyclopedias in high school. I
That's
was
right.
knocking door to door.
Yeah.
And you gonna get more no's than you get yes until you get that yes, and you're happy. So you
That's
got to
right.
keep knocking on those doors and let it be and keep building on top of it. And a lot of guys, but this guy, I love his story because his kids are awesome. I talk to his kids and they know me. Um, his story is, and he's not the only one, but
Yeah.
his story, I like his story, where he's coming, what he's doing. We've done some other stuff. We recently went to Raleigh and spoke to some kids about life and how to, do interviews and do a couple things. And he was with me, so I would drag him with me anywhere. And what makes it so unusual is, and some people will look, but how does this happen from when you are from opposite sides of the fence? Humanity. You
That's
have to
right.
think that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
How did you, coach? How did you get into this work? I'm curious. Like, were you? I mean, this has kind of been part of my life in some way, shape, or form. But how did you get started, and then what made you stay in it so long?
you know, at first, how I got started, I needed a job.
Yeah.
I got out of the military. I needed a good paying job, and the federal system paid, you know, pretty good for that time, and it still does. I was like, well, okay, what am I going to do? So when I went to the employment commission here in North Carolina, the guy says, I got a job for you. Go and apply here. I said, okay, well, I went and did my application because I went to see him and I said, well, there's a job. And I was looking at some jobs over in the steel mill that they have up in Oxford County, Granville County. And he said, you know what? That's not the job for you. He said, you
Mm.
don't look like this is be the job for you, but I got a job for you. Go and apply here. And that's how I got in. The first few years, I was like, I liked the job, but I was like, this is not for me. But then I realized when I had a call, is
Mm.
really what made the difference. I had a guy call me, um, and I've been working like 3.5 years or so, and I get a call on. from home, and and strange number, and I say hello, and he says, I'm such and such. You remember me? I said, yeah, I remember you. How you doing? And he said, listen, I'm just calling. I've been searching for your number. I've been searching for your name, and finally I reached you. I just want to say thank you.
Wow. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah, because you went out of your way to just in those moments that I needed somebody, you were there to help me out and talk to me.
Mm,
That time we had cigarettes, and I will have a cigarette, sit down, I will pull them out, put them outside, take a breather, talk to him,
yeah.
bring him back in. And he said, I really appreciate those moments. You went out your way. And I was like, oh, that's what
Yeah.
it's all about.
Right. Right. Yeah.
It's not about just going in and showing these guys who have, well, I got this power, I got a badge, I got this, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. No, but it's about being able to be there for somebody that
Yeah.
you just touch and be like grateful for it. I was like, wow, okay. Um, then teaching somebody how to make a bed. I work with mental health,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just taking the time. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. Well, let's clean up. And I felt like I went home. It was rough because it will drain you. Mental health,
Yeah.
working
Oh
on
my God. Yeah.
very, very, very draining because the ups and downs. Um, but what I really enjoyed after all those years, was being able to go home and sit back and think that hopefully I made a difference in somebody.
Mm, that's right.
And once you start doing that, the view of your job is totally, totally different.
Yeah.
Some guys would tell me that, well, you're willing to go out your way to help me out. Why? I said, I have no reason why. It's just because I
Yeah.
feel that is my job to be able to do that. And same thing in the community. Like I said, it takes a village. A
That's
lot of
right.
knew that I had kids come over to the house, especially with my daughter. My daughter's very friendly.
Mhm.
She will bring, and I have some of her old friends that still call me, "Hey, Pop, how you doing? I need some help." And I had one reach out to me the other day, about few months back. Listen, I'm just having some issues. I just need some man talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that made me feel like, wow, okay, he still, that respect is there is because we created, and you take that inside whether you want to or not.
Mm,
You know how you say some people, I'm not my brother's keeper,
yeah. Yeah.
but yes, you are.
That's right.
Whether
That's
you
right.
want to or not, you
Right.
are your brother's keeper. You
Yeah.
have to provide for those, and not just because um, you don't have to give them to them, you have to feed them to them, but no, by being who you are and what you represent, people are going to see it and they're going to take notice, and they're going to knock on your door and say, can you help me? Oh, can you guide me? Or can you give me something?
Yeah.
Can you? Now, are there guys that are going to take opportunity and damage that relation? Yes, yes, they are. They are. The one thing you can't do is allow those moments to destroy the good ones.
That's right.
And that's what happens to, I think that's really what happens to most of us. We take those small moments that are really, really bad and let them take over, and then you group everybody into the same uh, corral. And this doesn't, and you saying, well, I can't make that separation because then I don't, they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to do it.
Yeah. It's so important, going into it. I think, especially what I found in the men's prison is a lot of them start to turn to some kind of religion, because they find community there, and then some turn to gangs inside there because they find community. And I think the common denominator, whether it's religion or gangs or whatever the thing is, it's like, going back to what you said, it's the village. We at the end of the day, no matter how young or how old you are, we all want a village. We all want a pop to call, when we just like need some conversation. And I remember I didn't have a boyfriend, and my goddad needed something like to get fixed, and I was like, man, this one I need a man in my life. And he was like, why you need a man when you have a father? And so that was like very important. It's like, what I've learned from the women's prison side of things is to be validated in who you are and have healthy men in your life. Like you're not trying to figure out who you are with somebody that you have to be with, because there's such a purity in the relationships that I have with so many men, because there's no like I'm not being sexualized and vice versa, right? Like that's something that a part of my village being able to be poured into by people from different identities and backgrounds. It's just nothing like it. And I think that's what music does for us too. It's like you don't even know who sing the song. You're like, whose song is this? I don't know, but I know the chorus, I know the words, and it's like that's what the village has to be. Is we may not necessarily know how to adjust in every single way, but knowing that we have options, which is again something that we are very, very keen to and grow your world, is giving our kids mentors who look like them, who don't. We also do a near peer model with our tutoring, which means the kids 4th through 12th grade, they get tutored by college students. So now they have that relationship with the college student. They also have older adults. And it's like, no matter what, you now have created a village to understand that maybe the college student doesn't have what you need at the time. But that doesn't mean that at some point they won't have what you need. And so trying to be very intentional about, how who we allow in our lives, the boundary thing. And as an adult now, I'm getting up there. I'll be telling people, I'll be getting up there, coach. But it's so your time is it's like people be on different waves. It's like you can't even think like that. I'm really big on affirmations too. It's like because the more I can pour into myself, the more truly it starts to manifest.
Yeah.
And start to believe it. And I remember I literally got hired for a job, and the woman was like, oh, I thought you could do this. I was like, no, I just know somebody who can, so I can get you to the right person, because I love being a connector. And I think, that ability when you have a secure village is I don't have to be everything to everybody. I get to pick up the phone and ask for support or do some connecting. And I think that's something too that we don't talk about a lot, is to be able to say, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Being able to delegate certain things that we need to delegate. That's what they used to tell me on the job. You need to learn how to delegate because sometimes you can't. You just can't do it all. You can't really be in there. Um, and music in prison was one of those moments that everything stopped.
Mhm.
Um, those rivalries. A lot of times I went to the music room and I will get in the music room. They look at me like, "What are you doing here?" I'm just checking out, see who's who.
Yeah,
But the odd thing was sometimes in the music room, um, it didn't matter who was in there. Sometimes color barrier will break or whatever those things.
yeah,
Prison, because prison is very, people don't realize how much segregation can be in a prison because
that's right.
that's the way it is. But that music room sometimes it stopped that because some people just wanted to play music, and they wanted to bring out their just be able to share
Yeah.
love for music will be just the big difference. Just make a big difference. So Terry, it's just been great. I love talking to you.
Thank you.
And really, I think we made that connections. This is day one. I met you, and I was like, I really think this person has great energy, and I love talking to you.
Same, same.
A number, it doesn't matter what it is. I think we just made a connection right then and there. And I told you, hey, I need you on my podcast. I want you here, and I'm so happy to have you here. I hope we be able to do this again. Uh,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We'll remain connected, even though I know
Yeah,
you're moving to Atlanta, which is
yeah.
great. I know the opportunities in Atlanta are greater for you in every way and everything you want to do.
Thank you.
So, all I can say for you, Godspeed, keep going. Do
Thank
what
you.
you have to do. I hope I see you in the big stage. And I know I will, because something, you just attract people to you, and you're gonna be in a great place. Being in Atlanta, there's a lot of people down there doing a lot of great work.
I so appreciate everything that you have poured into me thus far. Thank you for taking a look at my reel and just like continuing to coach me up. I'm super stoked and excited. And I told your assistant I got to send over an email for like links if people want to get involved in our nonprofit. Some of the opportunities are virtual, some is in person, and we'd love to have them in whatever capacity they're willing to give.
Yeah, real quick, the nonprofit. Give me a name of your nonprofit.
So the name of the nonprofit is Grow Your World, and the website is growyourworld.org. My personal website is iamsoteria.com, and social media is I am Soteria.
Please, 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 if you see her, go to Instagram. I am Soteria. Follow her. She does great stuff in there. Great posts. I love what you post.
Thank you.
Reels, your travel, what you show about traveling not long ago. That was beautiful. Then
Thank
you
you.
got to work with those kids overseas. That's awesome. That's beautiful.